Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the West Hollywood Women's Advisory Board to order on Tuesday, November 19th at 7:03 p.m. First item, roll call.
Board Member Bleish? Present. Board Member Ayers?
Here.
Board Member Payton?
Here.
Board Member Di Sylvia? Board Member Vice Chair Deal?
Here.
Chair Luby?
Here.
And Board Member Tina Moore is absent today. We have a quorum.
Okay, great. And then item 2, moving right into the approval of the agenda, meeting agenda for tonight. Has everybody had a chance to review it?
I move we approve the agenda.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Looks like we have an approved agenda. Okay, great. And then moving right along to approval of the minutes, I'd like to make a note that we'd like to table October's meeting minute approval. And so we are just going to be approving the minutes from August 22nd. Any changes, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I second.
22nd.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Cool. The meeting minutes from August 22nd, 2019 are approved. Great. Now moving into item 4, which is public comment. As the women, to note, the Women's Advisory Board values your comments. However, pursuant to the Ralph M. Brown Act, the Advisory Board cannot take action on items listed on the posted agenda. The public comment period is 3 minutes per speaker to address the Advisory Board on agenda items or items of general interest. And I believe we have someone here to speak to us.
Yes, good evening, board members. We're thrilled to have 2 representatives from the West Hollywood Sheriff Station here with you this evening, Captain Ed Ramirez and Operations Lieutenant Nancy Magali. And if you come up to the podium, and they're just going to share a little bit of information with you. We shared with you previously the last public safety update report that went to the City Council, and we're really honored to have Captain Ramirez and Lieutenant Magali here with us this evening.
I'm going to talk about a couple of things and kind of give you a little bit of a public safety update. I may exceed my 3 minutes if that's okay, but I was asked a series of questions, I believe, by your board that I'm going to try to address here and answer for you tonight. Okay, the West Hollywood Station continues to engage with the West Hollywood community regarding habits that reduce the likelihood of becoming crime victims. Furthermore, we have increased our social media campaign as a means of reaching out to the public and providing valuable information. We look to continue to improve upon these efforts to maintain and build public trust and to best serve the various communities that make up the city of West Hollywood. In regards to crime rate in the city, when compared to 2018, Part 1 crime for 2019 has decreased a total of 14%. Arsons have decreased 50%. Rape is down 50%. Armed robberies are down 24%. Residential burglaries have decreased 37%. Grand theft is down 7%, and petty theft has decreased 23%. Additionally, we have not had a homicide this year, as opposed to having 3 in the year 2018. That said, vehicle burglaries continue to be a problem. Inasmuch as we are still down 3% from last year, the problem still persists. Auto theft is up 12%. However, many of these cases come with unusual circumstances. These circumstances being folks who forgot where they parked their cars after a night out on the town, misunderstandings with rental car agreements, or vehicles where the owner has simply left the spare key fob in the vehicle. And that happens more often than we think. A lot of times that's the easiest place for them to find them, but the key fob still has the reader on it, so when somebody goes and just pulls on the door, it reads that the key fob is inside, and they'll go and rummage through the glove compartment or center console and take the car. Aggravated assaults are up, an uptick of about 1%, when many of those that are fights that are related to the consumption of alcohol, drugs, or both, and these typically take place in our nightclub areas. Overall, with a reporting district of 1.9 square miles and 39,000 residents, which balloons to about 50,000 to 200,000 on any given weekend or with any one of our special events, I am more than content with our numbers with our numbers and the job that our deputies, sergeants, detectives, and lieutenants are doing. Some of the questions I was asked to answer are the following. One of them pertained to body cameras. And the question was, I'd like to know more about this program. Where are the body cameras activated? When are the body cameras activated, and by whom? And what is a body camera room, and how does it operate? And what purposes do the body cameras serve? So I can tell you that our sheriff station has been selected, or our sheriff station has been selected for each Board of Supervisors district for a pilot project. So all 5 areas, each station, one station in those selected areas is part of the pilot project. West Hollywood Station was chosen for Supervisor Sheila Kuehl's 3rd district. The program should begin within the new year, and body cameras are typically activated when a sworn department member comes into contact with the public. The camera is controlled by the deputy, who is responsible for turning it off and on. The body camera room, I believe, is being referred to as a room where the body cameras are stored, downloaded, and charged. This room is locked and will be video monitored. That room at our station is currently under construction, and we expect it to be done within the next month or so. The policies and procedures for the program are still being finalized. What I can tell you is that as a strong proponent of body-worn cameras, I can point to several potential benefits. First off, better transparency. Body-worn cameras may result in better transparency and accountability, and thus may improve law enforcement legitimacy. Increased civility. Body-worn cameras may result in higher rates of citizen compliance to officers' commands during encounters and fewer complaints lodged against law enforcement officers. Quicker resolution. Body-worn cameras may lead to a faster resolution of citizen complaints and lawsuits that allege excessive use of force and other forms of officer misconduct. And finally, training opportunities. The use of body-worn cameras also offers potential opportunities to advance police through training. Another question I was asked was cultural diversity training for LASD personnel. Are front desk and volunteer personnel included in these trainings? And what aspects of culture are addressed? So to answer that question, all sworn personnel and some professional staff are sent to cultural diversity training. Volunteers do not formally receive the training. However, many of them have sat in voluntarily on their own accord. As our training information explains, cultural and the objective of the training is, and I'm going to read this verbatim, the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon a person's capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. The customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. The set shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes a company or corporation. The objective of this class is to bring awareness of our differences and to create and maintain a respectful environment. Our MET team. Question was asked about our MET team, which is our mental evaluation team. How do members of the MET team work with individuals to convince them to enter treatment? So I'll give you a little bit of background on the mental evaluation team. It consists of a deputy sheriff and a Department of Mental Health clinician, and both respond jointly to mental health crisis situation to lower the risk of violent interactions. That have historically resulted in jail time rather than treatment. There are currently 2 teams housed out of West Hollywood Station. One team works slowly within the city, while the other is a regional team that, when needed, will respond to other jurisdictions, county jurisdictions and surrounding areas. But the good part about that is we get to have both teams here, and they're housed here. So if we need them in the city of West Hollywood, if they're not needed elsewhere, we will have 2 teams here in the city. And to answer the other question, in as much as we cannot force an individual into treatment, our specially trained teams work diligently to persuade those experiencing mental health episodes to work with them to get the proper assistance needed. These individuals are well versed on crisis intervention training and advanced de-escalation, and oftentimes, despite the difficulty of getting a patient's full information to determine their eligibility for services, these teams have aggressively advocated for patients for hours at a time, to make sure they get checked into a hospital where they can get the needed help. Since July 1st of 2018, the West Hollywood Met team has handled over 200 evaluations. I was also asked to give a Plummer Park update. The city and the sheriff department had been receiving numerous complaints in regards to the area in and around Plummer Park. And those complaints were from residents, East Side residents, or people who utilize the park on a regular basis. These complaints range from drug usage, drug dealing, prostitution, aggressive encounters with our mentally ill transient population, and individuals monopolizing the restroom for prolonged periods of time. In response to these complaints, the Office of Public Safety, block-by-block security ambassadors, and the Sheriff's Department implemented a plan to address these issues. Excuse me. Deputy personnel are currently assigned to the park and only to the park on a foot patrol, and these on foot patrol duties from 12 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. They do not answer calls for service outside of Plummer Park. Additionally, our community impact teams check the parks between 10 o'clock p.m. when the parks are closed until they reopen, and then up to 11:59 a.m. when the park patrol deputy comes on to ensure that our park rules are followed and all regulations and rules are adhered to. Additionally, block-by-block security ambassadors have stepped up their foot patrols and their bike patrols and have added a bathroom attendant to monitor all restrooms to ensure that they are being utilized for their intended purposes. In addition, the public safety team, which included our city manager on the walkthrough, toured the park and discussed adding cameras, additional lighting as part of our added security and safety measures. These changes have had a huge impact on the quality of life for our residents and the utilizers of the park. And these changes can best be summed up in an email that I currently received on November the 7th from a resident who lives in close proximity to Plummer Park, and I'd like to read that for you. It starts by saying, "Hi everyone, I want to thank you for everything you've done to clean up the park these past few months. The change first hit me about a month and a half ago when I walked past the tennis courts, and for the first time in 16 years of living here, the people going in and out of the restrooms were actually carrying tennis rackets instead of stolen bikes and drug paraphernalia. It then happened again about a week later as I passed the community center bathrooms on my way to Trader Joe's. Instead of the usual sight of a dozen or so tweakers sitting on the concrete wall and darting in and out of the bathrooms to shoot up, there were about a dozen or so little kids on skateboards teaching themselves how to ollie for the first time, and a young mother sitting on the wall with her small child playing, I kid you not, patty cake. It was a scene so strangely normal that I literally, not figuratively, but literally stopped in my tracks and did a double take. It was a complete shock and really great to see. I've spoken with many neighbors, and everyone is extremely happy with the positive changes around here. So thanks again, and I hope you have a great day. Brian." And that sums up what we've been doing in Plummer Park. We additionally have foot patrols at the West Hollywood Park. As you well know, that it's going to take more than a police effort to combat the issue regarding homelessness, but please know that in the city of West Hollywood, help is always our first, we always offer help first before we take any other step. We have ticketed our homeless, we have arrested our homeless, But there's no way we're going to be able to arrest our way out of this problem, but it's going to take a collective effort on behalf of numerous organizations, not only locally, statewide, and federally. But we're all ears, and we're ready to do what we need to do to address the problem. I can now take any questions that you may have.
I had kind of just an off question that I jotted down. First of all, of the Met team, you said 200 evaluations. Can you speak any more to kind of what happens like after someone is evaluated? Like, do you have any like further data regarding like, after they were evaluated, were they? Oh,
Yeah, I can take that. Chair Luby, I'm happy to answer that. We are planning to bring a more comprehensive report on the first year of service of the Met team to a
Okay.
future meeting of the board, which will include all of that information, both in terms of outreach to homeless community members, but other interventions as well. So we have
Okay.
that full report coming to you soon.
awesome. That'll be awesome. Any other questions?
I have one. Hi, thank you so much for coming in. It's really,
My pleasure.
it's so wonderful to hear about the way that things are, improving so significantly at Plummer Park, and just to hear that it's now like a safe place for families. So, as my fellow board members know, that I've been very, very focused on the topic of human trafficking and creating a lot of awareness, and it is a bit of a problem here within West Hollywood. So I was just wondering if there's anything that's happening specifically out of the sheriff's station at the current moment.
Well, we do have a human trafficking team on the sheriff's department. We have not received any complaints of human trafficking in the city, which doesn't mean that it's not going on. It means that we haven't received any complaints. What I can tell you is that the sheriff department, deputies at the city of West Hollywood, my community impact team, has gone out to look at sites. We've received numerous complaints. One was reported in WehoVille about some massage businesses doing business as massage parlors and other acts. We were there with I lose track of the name of the group, the code enforcement, with code enforcement to go in to ensure that all codes were up to par. Code enforcement did give a number of violations, wrote out a number of citations for code violations. But please know that if we do hear of any human trafficking violations, that they will be fully investigated by our investigative team, our bureau that investigates that, Human Trafficking Bureau. But to date, we have only received one complaint, and that one was fully investigated.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
I have a question as well. Thank you for coming to share this information with us. If you've seen the decrease in activity in Plummer Park, I was curious to see if any of that activity has been shifted over to the park here outside of council chambers.
No, actually, the same things that we implemented in Plummer Park, we've implemented here at West Hollywood Park. So the same rules that I talked about, the same hours I talked about, also apply to West Hollywood Park. But the issues were the same here. And no, we're currently not experiencing any issues at Plummer Park or West Hollywood Park as we were before.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I think
Great.
we're
Again,
good.
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. Okay. Awesome. That was wonderful. Moving on to item 5, new business. We're actually going to skip item 5A for just one moment and then actually move into item 5B, which is the Aging in Place Initiative. I believe we have Elizabeth Anderson here from the Strategic Initiatives Program Administrator to speak with us with some updates. Thank you for coming.
All right, good evening, Chair Luby, Vice Chair Deal, and members of the Women's Advisory Board. I am delighted to, I'm going to pause for 1 second until we get our PowerPoint up.
There we go.
All right. So I am delighted to present you an update on the City of West Hollywood Aging in Place, Aging and Community Strategic Plan. This year marks the completion of year 3 of the 5-year plan, and tonight I am sharing the year 3 findings from our evaluation consultant. So a quick history of the plan. The 2013 West Hollywood Community Study highlighted that the community's priority is to age in place, and to address this would call for a strategic plan. A groundswell of momentum followed, and the City Council established aging as a priority in the 2014 budget cycle. A comprehensive community engagement process followed, as West Hollywood is known to do, and everyone from experts in the field of aging to residents, city stakeholders, social service providers, the chamber, the arts community, and more contributed their perspectives to inform the city's Aging in Place, Aging in Community 5-year strategic plan. And that officially launched in 2016. Our local plan is connected to national and global thought leadership. The framework is based on the World Health Organization's domains of livability, and the city is connected to AARP's Age-Friendly Cities Network. In fact, West Hollywood was the first SoCal city to sign on. A key element of our plan is being adaptive to community needs. So in 2018, responding to the current and increasing attention around Alzheimer's and other dementias, the city was the first to sign on to the Women's Alzheimer's Movement 5-step agenda for cities. Additionally, we adopted a new domain of livability to support this, titled the Alzheimer's and Other Dementias domain, and also introduced a safety and emergency preparedness domain, which brings our count to a total of 10 domains to organize the community work supporting aging and community. From the start, City Council prioritized funding for ongoing evaluation of the implementation of the Aging in Place, Aging and Community Plan. The city has retained the services of Health Management Associates Community Strategies to do this work. HMA is using a collective impact framework to capture the results of the plan. Tools they use to evaluate include surveys from the community and city affiliates, like board members, commissioners, and staff. They do content analysis from public meetings. They catalog activities offered by the city and the community and organize these under our 10 domains. They interview staff from city departments, and they review social service program reports. Noteworthy this year was a very successful community survey strategy that resulted in the highest number of responses to date, up from 159 in 2016 to 489 responses in year 3. That's an amazing turnout by the community for that survey. Boards and commission members' participation was also the highest on record at 41, and city staff participation was equal to the highest ever at 106 completed surveys. This provides rich data for HMA to work with in terms of understanding the sentiment in the community and the institutional culture shifts within the organization. So next we move into the findings discovered by HMA. If you want to leave with one takeaway tonight, it's this: program offerings, participation, and positive community sentiment is on the rise. We saw activities across all 10 domains of livability, more participation in social service programs by adults ages 70 and older, and very positive community sentiment about access to services, programs, participation, and social connection. So first I'll highlight the activities that HMA documented occurring in the 10 domains of livability. Year 3 saw the highest number of program offerings for the community to date. These were provided both by the city and our community-based organizations. This really shows the collective impact model in action. So a few of the highlights you'll appreciate. Under Open Spaces and Buildings domain, the Planning Department continued its Parklets program, which creates unexpected spaces in commercial areas to create places to sit, rest, and enjoy the action in West Hollywood. In transportation, the city introduced and subsidizes a new on-demand transit choice for the older adult community members, and improved walkability on Sunset Boulevard by adding curb extensions that help drivers really focus on pedestrian zones. Under communications and information, there was an intergenerational tech class offered that was wildly popular. It paired savvy teens with older adult students who boosted their cell phone knowledge in a one-day course. This class has actually since been integrated into the ongoing programming offered at JFS. And another highlight is that Seniors in Action continued to meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month at the West Hollywood Library. Total attendees to date has now reached 125 people, really showing the popularity of this program. And lastly, I'll highlight that under Alzheimer's and other dementias, the city has started building a partnership with LA County's LA Found unit to make the Project Lifesaver program, which is designed to quickly locate individuals who may wander due to Alzheimer's or autism, more easily accessible here in West Hollywood. So these highlights just give you a glimpse of the long list of activities happening under each of our domains, and there's more to enjoy in the full report. So, oops. All right, so with all of these activity offerings, it begs the question, are people engaging and do they know about the programs? We were happy to see from HMA's analysis that participation in city contracted social service agency programs is up since 2016, which then leads us to our next question. How is the community perceiving the services, the resources and programs that are available to support aging in place? So I think this quote from a community member's survey is a good way to understand how people are feeling. It captures the answer to this question. The one survey respondent said, West Hollywood is very helpful to senior citizens. I always look forward to attending the senior health fair and luncheon. It's a good place to learn and socialize. So with that example from one community member, we next want to look at the community overall. HMA's analysis of the 489 surveys completed by the community enabled them to group the survey questions into themes, and they were really able to document a positive trend across each of the following themes. So under social connections, which is getting at whether people know where to find programs, if they're feeling respected and connected to others, we saw a combined rating of 4.08 out of 5, and this is an upward trend since 2016. In terms of availability of services, people are reporting they know how to get to and use our public parks and open spaces. They feel knowledgeable about how to get information to solve their problems. They're empowered to address their food needs, and they're using health services. People rated this 4.14 out of 5, continuing the positive trend. Under civic activity, people are saying that they're engaging more in volunteering and employment and cultural activities. HMA notes here that overall engagement on this theme is a bit lower than the prior two I mentioned. Here, people gave this a score average of 1.96 out of 5, but 1.96 is still a positive trend compared to prior years on this theme. And then lastly, on perceived safety, people are rating the city and their neighborhood as more safe than before. This rating is also a little bit lower, but 2.76 out of 5 is still a positive trend compared to prior years. So in summaries, HMA's data analysis shows that community sentiment and perceptions are on the rise. So next, HMA analyzed the data collected from surveys completed by board members, city commissioners, and staff. HMA also was able to group these survey questions by theme to create the following measures. The first is the idea of efficacy, whether or not we have the belief in the ability to contribute to changing West Hollywood to be more age-friendly. Overall efficacy is relatively high. Both groups are fluctuating around 4.5 out of 5. And when I say both groups, that's boards and commission members are one group and staff is the second. In the measure of age-friendly perceptions, this is how people affiliated with the institution are rating the institutional and community awareness and experience of age-friendliness. So this rating has remained above a 3.3 out of 5 since the start in 2016 and is trending down slightly. This is an interesting finding considering the sentiment in the community has been on a positive upward trend at the same time. Under the measure of incorporating aging, this measures the actions staff, board members, and commissioners have taken to incorporate elements of the aging strategic plan. The scores here are also strong, and they've remained above a 3.2 for both groups since the start of the plan, though there have been some fluctuations. And then referenced in public meetings, this is where analysis of staff reports from city council meetings shows that discussion of aging in place, aging in community has substantially increased in 2018 and 2019. Use of that same terminology among boards and commission members also saw an increase. For example, the Senior Advisory Board doubled their use of the term senior in year 3, and the Women's Advisory Board went from 0 to 18 mentions of aging in place this past year. So well done. All right, this slide describes HMA's plan to evaluate the implementation of the strategic plan for years 4 and 5. We'll continue to do surveys with older adult community members, city staff, boards, and commission members. To get further into a deeper understanding of the difference between community sentiment on the rise and the institutional kind of concern about potentially a downward trend on the perception of aging in place, they're actually recommending that we do focus groups to understand more about that difference in opinion. And then they're also going to continue collecting and analyzing data. They'll track activities by domain. They will look at content from public meetings, and they'll also look at social service contract reports to get a sense of who's engaging with our nonprofit social service agencies. And then finally, I want to end with a preview of year 4 activities that are already in place and moving ahead. Under health and community, we are looking at ways to address food insecurity by increasing CalFresh enrollment by eligible residents. Under the domain of social participation, our Seniors in Action program continues, and we are also introducing new programming with a partnership with Santa Monica College's Emeritus program. This will be the first time that they'll be offering classes east of the 405, and we are so excited that they're doing that here in West Hollywood. And then finally, under Alzheimer's and other dementias, we're continuing to work on our partnership with LA County, and we're excited for when it's fully established and we're really able to make access here locally easy for our residents. And that is the end of the Aging in Place presentation on the results from our evaluation consultants. And there is a very long report that you can get into when you're looking for some light reading to get into all of the data analysis and findings. Some of the really fun parts to read are what is happening under each domain. So you really get a sense of what aging in place, aging in community looks like here in West Hollywood and what we all have to look forward to. I'm happy to take any questions.
I must say, my name is Nadia Sutton. I'm totally bowled over. This is so impressive. We are an example to the whole of Los Angeles and the whole of California. I hope your program goes far and wide. I think what is so important is to realize that the demographic of people over 70 is very varied. Some people might need services and want to socialize, but then there are many of us, including myself, who are very independent. So what we appreciate is just to have the auxiliary services, such as transportation and food availability, without having us have to be socializing with other people. So I think it's mainly those services, and definitely the transportation is so important. I also would like in the future to see programs that we have done in the past, such as tech support programs. It's not that we are not intelligent. We just need to be able to keep up with the technology that is advancing, be it with a cell phone workshop or computer workshops. I think that would be really, really helpful for many of us in this community.
That's great, wonderful feedback. Thank you so much. And speaking to that idea of getting more people educated and fluent in technology, the programming offered at Jewish Family Service at the West Hollywood Comprehensive Service Center is responding to that need, and they are expanding their offerings in terms of the range of tech that you can learn about and become more fluent in. So definitely for anybody watching at home, I encourage you to check out all of the offerings at the Comprehensive Service Center and also here at our library in West Hollywood for ongoing opportunities to learn different tech tools and tricks. Thanks so much for bringing that up.
Well, thank you. You are very impressive. You and your team are a real example to the whole of this country. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question. So it seems like you have, or your study showed that there's an increase of seniors engaging in the social service kind of programs. I'm wondering if you've, like, what the level of participation is in other kinds of programs, like classes and how-to and you know, other types that might be seen as recreation or entertainment.
That's a great question in terms of that data that we can look at. So with our colleagues, when offering different programs through arts and culture, and obviously we know the arts and culture offerings here are really robust, we don't have the ability to find out people's ages in terms of who's in the audience, but the opportunity is to create content and programming that appeals to all ages. So one of the activities highlighted in the 10 domains was the Beverly Park art installation in the library. I believe I'm naming that correctly. And that was a look at 1960s photography around the Beverly Park development, I believe. Amusement park, excuse me, which drew a certain audience that was interested in that history. Maybe they lived it, or they had an interest in learning more about what had existed there at the park. So it's important in the programming that's offered through the city that it appeals to a range of perspectives and interests that people are looking to get more connected.
I love that. I love that, you know, lens that programming is being looked at now. And I would just encourage the city to continue to get creative, keep trying things, see, you know, how the population responds, and to not give up, because, I mean, not that you would, but, but it seems like this community operates on word of mouth, and it does seem to be building. And I think the more these kinds of programs are provided, the more the turnout is going to continue to increase. And I just want to give a shout out quickly to our brothers and sisters on the Senior Advisory Board, because I think one of the reasons why aging in place and these things are such a priority for the city is due to the work that they do and contribute.
Yes, I agree on this point. Our contribution is what's most important. For some older adults, they might like to get together with each other, but many of us, most of us, want to be integrated because we have so much to offer. So that is why the programs such as transportation and other programs are so important, so that we are not clustered in one group. Older adults want to contribute and be part of, not put in a little group.
So true, and in using all the great transportation resources here, you can literally open up the city calendar and decide, I want to go to that program, and it doesn't necessarily need to say program for older adults on it. It's really what appeals to your interest. That's great.
Thank you.
Did you have something that
I
you
have
wanted to
a comment and a question. So furthering that, one of my key area of interest is to intergenerational relationships. And so that is definitely, I think, an opportunity, I think, for our board to look into as well, of what are we looking at our programming, and where can some of those overlaps lie possibly. So then it goes back to some of the data that you shared as well. So one of the key points that stood out to me was the civic activity was the lower portion of that, at only 1.9. And so what are some of your team's plans to be able to see that increase, or what that may look like?
Yeah, I think what the data really shows is there's an opportunity to introduce more programming that could engage and activate people around employment, volunteering, civic engagement. There's a lot of great work coming out of our legislative affairs team around activating people for Census 2020 and getting West Hollywood to be counted. So that's like opportunity number one, is let's all activate around Census 2020. And then with our colleagues through JVS and the WeHo Works program, they do have the ability to connect older adults with employment opportunities, and that is something that we'll continue to look at in terms of that pathway to engaging in employment. And the city, through partnership with Cedars-Sinai and to support the LA LGBT Center Culinary Training Program, which is an amazing model of intergenerational learning and working, was able to, through our conversations with Cedars provided the LGBT Center with a grant to help fund paid training and internships for their first year, kind of proof of concept. And then with our partnership with the West Hollywood Chamber, the chamber members have created the paid internship opportunities for individuals to come out of that program and do their internships here in West Hollywood. And so we're really excited to be able to support and activate and grow that program as champions down the street, and creating more opportunities here in West Hollywood. And then continuing to look at ways that we could engage people on volunteering. I think that data point really calls that out.
That's great. Thank you.
I have one kind of follow-up question to that. One, I want to commend you for all of the work that you guys are doing on this. It's astounding, and I think that to Nadia's point, it really does. West Hollywood continues to do what it does, which is elevate this and honor this amazing part of our population that has been here for so long, and we want to keep that because it adds to that richness of the fabric of our community. And also, Nicole, to your point of like intergenerational, when you just brought up volunteering, I would love, and I suspect anyone that might be watching this would love to know, like, are there other ways that just community members can get involved in with that idea of like intergeneration? You know, like there was the teens and the cell phones, but what if you're like a middle-aged person and, you know, wants to do something? Or like, are there volunteer opportunities available that you could share?
Well, yes, definitely. We are in the final stages of about to update our volunteer opportunities connected to addressing homelessness here in the community and regionally. And we will be posting how to get connected with all of the social service agencies that we fund to address homelessness. And these are our teams like Essentia, who does outreach to connect people with shelter. And Essentia's shelter is very much a vibrant and active place, and volunteers are a big piece of that because volunteers can come in as a group or as individuals and cook meals for the people who are staying in the shelter. So opportunities like that where people wanted to self-organize groups and go to Essentia and have that be an opportunity to volunteer together and also to give, that's a great way that we could get activated on that. And that will be posted on our website, weho.org/homeless, and under the title of How to Help.
Awesome, thank you. One other thing right there, I forgot to mention this when you were talking about the work with Cedars and the Chamber and the LGBT Center. I want to just also commend you for making sure that is a paid internship. I think that is so amazing, and I was also told when I asked earlier that it was actually above the minimum wage amount, which as well, and I understand that the training is also paid, is that right? So I think to acknowledge that is huge, and it sets another wonderful precedent as a community. So thank you for that. Did anybody else have any comments or questions?
Would you be able to just spell Essentia, please?
Sure. It's spelling bee moment. ASCENCIA. Essentia.
I was just writing a note for myself, and I wrote like SP in parentheses, so I had the spelling right, thank you, because I just wanted to look it up.
I don't know if there's, this is totally just brainstorming, so maybe this isn't the time, but please let me know. But if there's an opportunity to like a needs list of what seniors may want, like doing that survey work, but then seeing to what the community may want to do in response to that. So like even like a matchup of volunteer needs or adopt a whomever in your life kind of thing around those areas. I think that would be compelling to me.
And one of the things that we'll be doing as well as the volunteer opportunities related to homelessness is we're going to be revamping the aging page on the website as well. And so one of the opportunities that's already present is JFS has a Connect program, and that is a volunteer program. It helps pair people in the community with older adults who might need somebody to help drive them to an appointment or might just need to help, go through some paperwork or help them with something. It's not hugely, the workload is not like a heavy workload. It's not like cooking and doing laundry, but it's also about just spending time and getting to know somebody and having some support. And so that program is in existence through JFS. And if that's something that you're interested in, we would absolutely encourage you to participate, and we can help provide that information. And then I would just add one other piece just to kind of give you a little bit more flavor, because I think that intergenerational piece is so important. That smartphone class, so you saw a couple of the pictures from that, that was a bilingual class. It was an English and Russian language class with a manual that was in both English and Russian. Our teen geek squad from our teen center in Plumber Park came and served as volunteers, and the reason they had those like chopsticks in the photo is because they weren't supposed to go push all the buttons for them. It was they could use those to point, but not to do the kind of programming or change the things for them. And then in addition to the bilingual and the intergenerational, what we also had to kind of look at is we had to be kind of, I don't know what this is, biphonal. We had to have, a program that worked for people who had iPhones, people who had Androids, and so that kind of kickoff to that program and the success of that program really then made it something that could become integrated into ongoing programming. And so it is still available. JFS is still doing that, and we're actually looking and exploring some kind of enhanced opportunities through that program too, where it might not be that you have to go through a whole class. Maybe you have a question and then you just do like a tech clinic, and you can come in and we can, so we're looking at a number of those opportunities, and we welcome your feedback in that process as well. And before Elizabeth leaves tonight, I also want to add that kind of really robust, those survey numbers being what they were this year, that is the work of Elizabeth, of Diane Kahn-Epstein on our team, of Jenny Ivanova, really doing all the work to get out to the places where our older adults are, spending a lot of time in pop-ups and tabling and really getting out there. So I want to commend them and thank them for their work in that process as well. Those results would not have looked the way they looked without their efforts. And Elizabeth, I just also want to say Elizabeth is here after a full day in Sacramento yesterday, after being at the California Commission on Aging Forum that was at the LGBT Center today. And so all of this work connects to so many pieces that we're doing, but really want to thank her for a great presentation and for sharing information with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, okay. Moving right along after that wonderful presentation to item 5C, which is the Los Angeles County Commission on Women and Girls Initiative presentation. And I believe, hi.
Hello. So is the presentation ready? Okay, awesome.
There we are.
So thank you very much, Women Advisory Board from West Hollywood, for inviting me. My name is Imelda Padilla, and I do the community engagement on behalf of the Women and Girls Initiative. And I also want to take, before I get started on the formal presentation, wanted to just mention that my hello and thank you isn't just on behalf of me, but also my entire team, and more specifically and more personally from our executive director, Abby Land, who for a long time sat on your council as a mayor and council member. She apologizes for not being able to be here today, but is very excited to know that we're here finally talking. So with that being said, can you all see the presentation from your screens? Okay, great, because I'm going to be able to reference it, right? And
Perfect.
Then, all right, so right click moves it. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking a little bit about our background, and then going to conclude with some of the more current things. I noticed on your agenda that you're talking about what you're going to be doing for March for Women's History Month, as well as the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So hopefully there'll be some synergy there. So the Women and Girls Initiative is an initiative that was started on by motion on December 13th by the LA County Board of Supervisors, where they wanted for a total of 5 years a team of people out of the Chief Executive Office to look at how the county is doing into applying a gender lens and how we service our employees, our clients, right, the people that we service, and the people that we partner with. As a county, we are a grantor, so we have many grantees. So we also wanted to see what we could do for those partners as well. Part of our structure is that we have a research director, community engagement person, myself, and we have 15 members of a governing council, that 3 appointed by each supervisor. Did it skip a slide? No, it did, I'm sorry. So our vision is that, LA County is a place where all women and girls are empowered to reach their full potential. And our mission is to make sure that we do this to enhance equity and justice, increase leadership opportunities and capacity, and of course, create innovative pathways and partnerships as we get this done. And when we talk about women, we're talking about women of all religions, all ethnicities, all disabilities, and all stages of life, and any individual who identifies as a woman or girl. This is just a quick photo of all of our supervisors at an event that we had a few months ago as it pertained to elevating the gender lens and gender bias within our employees. Over 500 employees attended, so wanted to showcase that. So in March of 2018 was when the initiative had its first round of community convenings. We had one in every single supervisorial district. This is the 3rd district, and for the 3rd district, it was hosted in the Van Nuys area at the Severoflosky Center, where we asked community members 5 questions as it pertained to what are the strengths and assets of your community and what are the unmet needs. These are some of the things that came up, right? People had a lot to say about current programs and services. People enjoyed the concept of outreach and empowerment and talked about how they wanted to see more of these things. Specific requests to systems change and coordination on the service side. There was a lot of community-based leaders, a lot of women that are either active in nonprofits or run nonprofits. So you actually had some community experts talk about how we would really like the government to actually partner with each other, right? Why doesn't the county talk to the schools? Why doesn't the county talk to the cities? A lot of that discussion by some of the participants. And then they, as individuals who are familiar with a lot of systems and how things get done, they very much emphasize that if the community trusts a nonprofit, please continue to support them. Those with best practices are the people that need to continue to be supported. So very general, but at the same time very specific, right, about what it is that they want to see. After this actually inspired our strategic framework that we have been operating off of. It's 5 priorities: equitable workplace, economic mobility, inclusive services, empowerment, and partnership. You can find the full strategic framework on our website. Highly encouraged to check that out. All of our reports, as well as our minutes and agendas from all of our public meetings, can be found there. But I highly recommend checking out the strategic framework, as there's a lot to be inspired from there. And then this is just continued list of what it is that we found. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we emphasize when we go out into the community is exactly what is the county's jurisdiction, right? And these are some of the things that they talked about. We are, as a county, we do run county-based hospitals. We do have the opportunity to provide economic mobility, and we are, as was the first presentation before me, we have a sheriff's department, right? The sheriff gets contracted by many cities, and we also service the unincorporated spaces. So a lot of different things on what it is that they wanted to see change. So where are we today? These have kind of been the buckets of topics, as I like to call them, that we have kind of identified as where we have been working off of. health and social services, workforce and economic development, public safety and justice, neighborhood built environment. I'm sure some of you have noticed that there is a lot of infrastructure coming to LA County as our voters have chosen to tax themselves and invest in things related to water infrastructure and transportation. We don't want to make sure that as those public dollars are being utilized, that there's definitely a woman's a gender lens incorporated. Women tend to ask for different things when it comes to the planning components compared to men when they're at the table, right? So we want to make sure that's what we mean by built environment. A lot of people ask us, well, what do you mean? Well, we have a public works department, we have parks, and we also have a regional planning office. And then a lot related to girls and future generations and systems change. I can get into some specifics right now, but maybe you can lead that for questions, but just know that there is at least 2 to 3 smaller initiatives within each of these subjects for the 3 populations, as I mentioned: the employees, the individuals that we service, and the people that we partner with. It's a big population, but there's a lot that has, our jurisdiction as the county falls under, so there we are. So also, on the funner note, right, as I mentioned, on August 6th, the supervisors motioned that during the year of August 2019 to 2020 will be when the county is going to be working to figure out how we celebrate the 100-year anniversary. Some of the things that are in the motion is that we want to be a hub, which I think is probably the most important message that I want to get across today is whatever it is that you host, please contact us. We would love to help you promote on our website, our social media, and also connect you to the Board of Supervisorial offices if you're interested in partnering. And this is actually a logo that we put together with a lot of different stakeholders from our governing council as well as our Commission on Women. So the County Commission on Women does a lot more service-based things for the county. They run a great scholarship program every year for at-risk girls, whereas we, as I mentioned, are a timed initiative and more of a research body, right? We're doing the assessment to make recommendations, whereas our commission has existed for a very long time. So together with them is how we're celebrating this and came up with this logo. Visually, right, it's reflective of the diversity of Los Angeles. We also wanted to keep something historical. Votes for Women is the expression that was used in the 1920s. So that's why it's on there. But most importantly is that the supervisors wanted this to be a time not just to celebrate everything that happened during the 1920s to get us there, but to also emphasize that it took a while for other populations, other women to get the vote. And we also wanted to make sure that we celebrated 100 years of Los Angeles looking like what it is today. And that's where we get our slogan, right? It's 100 years of passion, purpose, progress as we look to the past and craft the future. So if this resonates, please reach out. One thing too that I like to mention, and I'm probably preaching to the choir, is that whenever we get some naysayers as to, well, is this really a big deal? Do we, it's the year of the women. You guys are making so much noise with Me Too. Why spend time on this? And I'd like to remind folks that, the Right to Equal Pay Act was in '63. In '72, we got the right to run in marathons because there was a misconception that if women were overly athletic, that it would affect infertility, right? In '73, that was when we got Roe versus Wade, and we all know how that's being threatened today. '73, also the right to serve on a jury. And the one that's most personal to me, as somebody who lost my father at a young age, isn't married, we got the right to, it was in '74 where we got the right to credit, where women were finally able to go to the bank and get access to credit without being asked about their family planning. So these issues are still very much awake today, are real today, right? So as we did this as this motion came about, there was some goals tied to it, right? While this is a fun thing to talk about, we wanted to utilize it to emphasize that this is a time to remind folks the importance of civic participation and engaging and really playing a role in our communities as it pertains to that. So what we have in the motion is that we want to make sure that we talk to youth about the centennial, and that in California you can pre-register as early as the age of 16. So that's why youth is on there. We're also going to use this as a time to elevate the VSAT, Voting Solutions for All People. There is big changes coming to how we do voting in Los Angeles, and if there hasn't been some kind of a presentation, have you guys had that presentation by the county clerk's office? I'm glad. By the end of this year, I'm hoping everyone that plans to vote in 2020 knows that it's going to be very, very different. So the more outreach we could do related to that, the better. And that's not just women, that's all voters. We're also utilizing this time to elevate the census. The outreach dollars for the census this year are very low. So we have to really take matters into our own hands. So while we're out there, we want to make sure we tell people, fill out the census, it's all online. And the difference, though, between the census and we hope is the messaging isn't mixed up with things related to voting, is that we have to remember that the census is for everyone, not just those who are eligible. It's for everyone, and LA County is one of these places in this huge country where we have a lot of hard-to-reach populations, right? Formerly incarcerated, tend to be very pessimistic about filling out government documents, the undocumented community, lots of different individuals. So it really is going to take a community effort to get the census accomplished. And then, as I mentioned, there's a lot of people that are formerly incarcerated who think that they're not eligible to vote. So we want to clear that up and educate them on that. And most importantly, our county clerk office, through GIS technology, was able to identify that there is over 400,000 eligible but not registered women in LA County. So throughout the year, we want to partner with different communities, different spaces to take on that number. So that's an invitation and call to action to your group. There will be a map and a tool with showcasing those numbers with a toolkit that says how to host a registration drive that's going to be launched in January of 2020 for anyone to utilize. So it'll be interactive with some things to download. And just, for the record, some of the things that we've already done is we are asking all of our departments to do something to elevate the centennial. We have sent an email and request to all of our 80 cities and 88 school boards to also do something similar to elevate and remind everyone that we're hitting the 100th year. So this is just a list of our partners. And I also want to talk about some other things that are going to be showcased in January. We have put together a list of 100 women that helped make Los Angeles what it is today. That list will also be released in January. We will also make public an art exhibition that's going to be happening at our Natural History Museum, as well as some ideas for a permanent commemoration. So a lot coming in January. I will definitely invite you all to be there. So this is I mentioned the list of our partners. So what can your city do? These are just some of the ideas that came out of the community. Highlight the women in your department, your leaders, the first, right, through internal and external communication spaces. Who was the first woman of your planning department? Who was the first, things of that sort. And you can find those things by thinking. One of the things that as Women and Girls Initiative that we've kind of been pioneering based on our original motion and in all the work that we do when we talk to department individuals is, as a county, we want to remember, and as civil servants, we want to remember that sometimes we don't realize our power and our impact. But if you start to ask yourself, in my position, how can I talk to the community about this? How can I mention this to my employees? And then how do I mention it to my partners? What you do is you start a chain, right, where people take it back to their dinner tables, take it back to their faith-based spaces. And that's what we really want to kind of remind folks as possible. I'm a community organizer by trade. Leadership development is what we do. Standing in your power is something we remind folks. You're a leader. Remember who your audience is. So, you know, you can have a book club. We're also going to be releasing a list of recommended reading on behalf of our county library partners. We just had a request, which I don't know why I didn't think about it before. We're also going to be releasing a list of recommended movies in case anybody wants to host like a movie night. So sky's the limit, all right? These are just some ideas, but as you start to think through them and you want to host something, whether it's through yourselves as a advisory board or through spaces that you're involved with outside of here, please email us. We'd be more than happy to, you know, connect you with the supervisor's office or the county registrar, any partner that is relevant for whatever your big, beautiful, fun ideas will be. And with that being said, that concludes my my presentation. But I will say, hopefully you are all on our listserv, as we are going to be having our second round of town halls in 2020, where we are going to be more specifically asking for the community on policy recommendations as it pertains to, again, our jurisdiction. So there you go. Time for questions?
Sorry, my mic wasn't on. Who would like to start? Anyone? I have just a real quick question. Do you have the date for that January community meeting?
I don't, but I can tell you that it's probably going to be a Tuesday, because it'll be same time as our supervisorial meetings. So we're looking at around the 21st, 28th. Nothing is set in stone.
And those are typically during the day, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, great.
I understand that the initiative is going to have a website that lists all the events countywide having to do with the celebration of the centennial.
Yes, you've been going to my meetings. Yes, so that's actually part of one of the things we'll be launching that day in January. What we have identified thus far since August are more of the players and the individuals that are interested in hosting something. So by January, that calendar will be released, as in the different groups have told us what they're going to be hosting. It's almost as if everyone's been in planning mode. But by January, everybody's, you know, kind of knows what they're hosting, and then that's when we're going to feature it. But you don't have to tell us by January. If you're going to have something in July, tell us in February, and we'll showcase it on that calendar.
Thank you.
Say one more thing.
Keep saying all of the things, Karen.
Okay, so I know the county has done a lot with its transportation department as far as outreach and recruitment to women and trying to get more women applying for and getting hired for jobs in the transportation industry that have traditionally gone to men. And I completely commend the county for their efforts. I've seen videos. It's really, it's like the benchmark, what other counties should be doing. One department that I'm concerned about is the Department of Children and Family Services. I think the great majority of the employees in that department are women. So it seems to me to be a very, a department that it can be very high stress, underfunded, and the employees are overworked. And the employees are largely women. And I wonder if there is another approach to take to bringing some kind of empowerment to the employees of that department and making the employees there feel valued as not just employees, but as female employees in a female-dominated industry. And under that subset, I'm also concerned about the women, the girls and youth in foster care that the county looks after, that are wards of the state. And I wonder if there's a way that the initiative can empower those girls too.
Well, thank you for that. On the employee side, I can say that they as a department have recently come together to create an Office of Equity, where they are hoping will be the space where all employees can, bring their concerns and talk about exactly the things that you mentioned, right? It's high stress. We need more support. We need these unique supports. So I would definitely keep an eye out on that as that's unfolding as we speak and being planned out. And in terms of the individuals that we service out of that office, the girls in foster, it was actually just yesterday that our governing council voted that this is going to be the next thing that we really want to focus on. Yes, so well, we've been doing a lot with the fire department. We've been doing a lot with Park and Recs and a lot of things related to our Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. Yes, there was very high desire that this sort of be the next space that we spend a lot of attention to. So please continue to stay involved, and you will see that conversation emerge in our next couple of years.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for highlighting some of the more recent milestones that we've made, including getting a credit card, running a marathon, Roe v. Wade. I highlighted a lot of those, like 10 things that women couldn't do before the 1970s in a video, and it was pretty well received. It was on OMG Facts, but I'd love to see some of those more recent milestones that are so shocking incorporated into the 100th year celebration.
Mm-hmm. Just along those lines, one thing that I've noticed really shocks folks, as I mentioned, this was only a generation ago. Like, you can speak to any of our grandmothers about this, and do you remember this? And it's a little bizarre, right, to know that it really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So thank you, I completely agree.
And one of the most recent things in the video that I did was that women couldn't pay the same rate for healthcare as men until 2010. So that was like pretty shocking too. I mean, that's not even a generation.
Oh, interesting, thank you. Please email that to me, or we should connect.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I feel like all of our wheels are turning, and I'm sure we'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you for spending time with us and introducing it in such a wonderful way.
Awesome, thank you for having me. I've never been in this chamber, it's really pretty. But I've been here, so thank you.
Well, welcome and
Have a good
hi.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Okay, now I think we're going to shift back to item 5A of new business, which is support for the Hollywood Now production of the Vagina Monologues. And I believe, Ms. Ayers, Karen, you'll be speaking to that.
So, the Hollywood chapter of the National Organization for Women partners with the city every year on V-Day and doing this production of the Vagina Monologues. I believe this is our 4th consecutive year, and it's become a very popular event in the city. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the production that the city and now produces, because we take a lot of care into making sure voices that are traditionally unrepresented are represented on stage in this production. And the dates are going to be February, I believe it's 15th and 16th. It's the Saturday and Sunday right after Valentine's Day. And on December 3rd, it's going to be a city council item. If you want to come and support it, that would be great.
Oh, sorry, guys. Is there something? I'm sorry? December.
Oh, I'm sorry, December 2nd.
Which is, that
Monday.
would make sense, because the 3rd is Tuesday. Got it. As someone that has attended this before, I just wanted to say that it is so fun, and it is so amazing. In fact, you were part of one of my very favorite ones of all time, where I believe you were Ivy's vagina.
I was.
That was my favorite. I will, like, it
For
will,
2 years.
It was so good. It's so fun, and it's so fun to see, I think, so many community members in this performance type of role that we don't, we know each other. We know so many of them as activists. And I also want to applaud kind of the diversity that we do continue to see and how you guys have both modernized it a little bit and kept it true to who West Hollywood is. So those are my particular thoughts. Does anybody have questions or comments? And I believe we might also want to take a formal action on this, like to perhaps designate a liaison or subcommittee.
I should add, it is a fundraiser, and last year we raised $5,500 for Planned Parenthood LA, and we plan to raise money again for Planned Parenthood.
Amazing. Is anybody interested in taking a formal action of support on this? So that's question number one.
Do we need to make a motion?
I believe so. Yes.
I make a motion to formally support the Hollywood Now production of the Vagina Monologues in 2020.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining as a member of Hollywood Now on the board.
Fair. Noted that Karen is abstaining. And then kind of a second part to that, is anybody interested in formalizing an official subcommittee or liaison to that?
I'm interested as well
And
as a
two?
member of Now.
Okay, perfect. So we have who's?
I seconded. Angela did.
Angela seconded. And so, okay, so it sounds like Amanda and Angela are interested in the subcommittee, and I am a maybe on the subcommittee. I feel like I've watched for a couple of years now. I'm ready to dive in.
Oh, you should.
We'll talk about that. Okay, perfect. So I think we're good to go on item 5A.
Excuse me, Chair Luby, do you mind repeating who was going to be on the subcommittee again, please?
So we have Angela and Amanda, and I'm a maybe.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We are now switching to item 6, going into unfinished business. The first item is discussing the domestic violence awareness and advocacy in the family court system. Just a debrief regarding the event that was hosted on Monday, October 28th, regarding domestic violence awareness that was held at Plummer Park. I know, obviously, I just wanted to thank everyone for supporting, and those of you that could attend. I know it was a Monday and there were fires, and it was kind of a hectic day across the board. Any comments to start off with?
I just thought it was a very powerful event, and thank you for the city staff to pull it together. I know we had to postpone it because we were concerned about getting enough people in attendance, and that was definitely the thing to do. I think the people who did attend were very moved by it, and definitely the event raised awareness about this issue, which so many people don't know about.
I agree, and I mean, obviously, I think that one really amazing thing that came out of it, Assemblymember Bloom's office did send someone, and it sounds like conversations have been moving forward with some of those advocates regarding the legislation. And I also agree. I think it's such a very specific issue. It was amazing to see so much community support for it, both from a council member's perspective and community perspective. And the conversations that went on well after the event occurred were just unbelievable. So it sounds like we both raised we set out. To me, I feel like we met our goals. We raised awareness, and it sounds like there's some tangible things that came out of that, which was I was very proud of it. Cool. Anything else on that? Okay.
I've seen a few, one panelist at another event and then met someone else who's going through the system. So it was really nice to know what was going on and be able to communicate with them and know what they were fighting for. And so I just thought it was so wonderful and informative.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just as well, I have yet to see anybody that from that event. However, I found it to be a very powerful evening. I thought that the film was very well done, and the panelists themselves, the perspectives that they provided, the knowledge that they provided, thank you. The knowledge that they provided was really, I mean, it was just more than anything, it was just really eye-opening, and I think that also something very important that one of the panelists did recommend or had made a statement about, as something that board member Ayers did speak about a few moments ago, just the importance of really focusing on our children in the foster care system. So, yeah.
Anything else?
I found it troubling and disturbing on another level than I wasn't quite aware of. And so it was informative, and I think it was nice to have the representation from the diverse group of the panel. I don't know where it is in our practice either, but I think it could be nice to be able to wrap it up at the end of it too, to say this is what we are doing as a board around this, or this is what the city is doing, and bring it back to our mission too of that. I think that would be a nice way to wrap it up for future events, maybe.
I'm sorry, could you say that
For
last
future
part?
events, to see where that could
I think that's really great feedback. I mean, I know, previously we've had kind of an ongoing, we had a subcommittee about this particular issue. So if, I would say, if it's something that we feel is kind of a core issue, it might be something that we want to discuss as a board to kind of continue, or also kind of look at our work plan and kind of see how we can make sure, to your point, so that it's not just like a one and done. If this is something that the board is passionate about as a whole, how can we make sure that we're continuing to elevate that? Okay, solid. Fantastic. Thank you all for your comments there. Now, moving into item 6B, which is National Women's History Month celebration. The board will discuss ideas for the city's annual commemoration of National Women's History Month held during the month of March, which will be here in a hot minute. So we have some things to discuss and review. And I believe we have some information, always.
So before you, there is a little packet regarding the banner nomination, some banner nominations that were made in advance of the meeting. And also, I believe most of you also have sort of the overview packet of Women's History Month. Tonight, we wanted to just zero in on a couple things regarding, talk about the banners, but then also give a couple updates about a couple of items that are part of the annual programming, and share that information. So whichever order you care to go in, Chair Libby, we can give the updates first, and then you can talk about banners.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Updates first and then banners.
Okay, we can talk about Women in Leadership Awards first.
All right. So we do have the date set for the Women in Leadership Awards. That will be on Wednesday, March 25th. We've had one kind of planning committee meeting with the chamber and with representatives from the board. They did discuss some potential honorees and are pursuing some of those now. And we will, there will be another report back at your December meeting. The subcommittee overall will be bringing back recommendations, but we'll have a little bit more information on the actual award ceremony. We're looking to be back at the same hotel that we were at last year, and we will have more update for you on that. But please go ahead and plan to save the date for March 25th for the 2020 event, which is also the 25th Annual Women in Leadership Awards. So it'll be a nice event.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on? Okay, cool. Any other?
Yes, and so this is not an update, but it's actually a new thing. I just wanted to bring to your attention, if you are interested, we were approached by the Public Facilities Commission with an idea. They could do an annual event for Arbor Day, and for scheduling reasons, they're looking to have it in March, and thought it would be a nice opportunity to collaborate with the board, and as part of Arbor Day, highlight women in the industry who have had an impact and sort of tie into the Arbor Day event. So that was something that kind of came to us, and we wanted to share that and see if that was of interest. and probably it would be something similar to, like, the Russian Advisory Board has an event that's Women's Day, that's celebrated in March, and the board supports in some way. This would be something similar. You'd be able to kind of co-create something, but they would be sort of the lead because they're already going to do their event, and sort of infuse it with Women's History Month was something that came out. So wanted to let you know, and if it's something that you like, then we can connect the subcommittee moving forward and keep it going.
I have a question about that. Is there a specific date surrounding that event yet, or?
Not at all. In fact, they really wanted to approach the board and first because of not wanting to, step on any toes around dates, and so they're flexible around that piece. Probably, maybe towards the end of the month was a thought, but it's really open. Typically, they do a weekend event, like a daytime weekend program. So.
One thought that I have kind of surrounding that, I think that if it could be even more broad, is just like environmentalist. I think that might be maybe real. I think that's interesting. I don't know how.
Yeah, I was just looking that up actually, like American women, because my first thought was Greta, but she's not American and doesn't have a lifetime of accomplishments yet. But somebody that came up that's a front runner at Greenpeace is Emily, maybe it's just spelled weird, Slotine. So it might be somebody to consider, but I would definitely say that incorporating that in some way would be important.
Yes. Sorry, Larissa, did you have something to add there? You gave me a
No, it was just wanted to share that idea, and if it's something that we want to pursue and explore and potentially say, hey, yeah, that would be lovely, add to Women's History Month programming through their participation. So that was just the idea.
Is this something that we would need to make a formal motion on, or can we just discuss as a group?
I think what we're going to suggest is that remand to the subcommittee for kind of connect and get more details and have a conversation.
Okay.
As the next step, if the idea is of interest to explore. So,
okay. I mean, it sounds like there's some interest. So if I think that sounds like a good way to move that along. Any other comments there? Okay. Next, we have done Arbor Day, the Leadership Awards. Shall we move into banner nominations?
So you have a little packet, and it reflects the background, a little background regarding the banners, but mainly the nominations that were made, which in advance, which it does not limit who you can talk about or who you can nominate. It was just a place to start, and so folks did submit some nominations, and there's some little more information about those nominees, the four in question, and so you can have some discussion about those or make more nominations, and the four people being Louise Hay, U.S. Congress member Karen Bass, Zoe Nicholson, and Dr. Christine Blasey Ford.
So I don't know if our newer members are aware, but we did nominate and voted to do a banner of Dr. Blasey Ford last year, but we ran into some issues around that. And basically, it was still very fresh, the events of what happened. She was keeping a low profile and preferred not to participate in that. And we honored her wishes by not doing a banner. So I just want to put that out there. That doesn't mean that remains the same. It sounds like she's starting to make some public appearances, but not in a big way. So just if we do decide to pursue that route, we need to be thoughtful and respectful.
Yes. That's helpful. I had nominated her, and
I did too.
I had done so because I saw that she had recently been at some public appearances, and so that's why I had thought of her more recently.
Wasn't she just honored by the ACLU on Sunday?
She was, but it was a very locked down, tight event. It was not a public event.
Got it.
And one idea that came to me late was we could always do a banner of the centennial of the women's vote.
I had some issues putting nominations through on my phone. It got caught up a couple, so I have some others to add. I don't know if we want to do that now or after we talk about the others.
Let's talk about it. We have time. Let's talk about it now.
Okay, I
If
have
that
a few.
sounds good to everyone?
I have a few to add. So we were just talking about environmental and more local. So Mary Nichols, she is the chairwoman of the California Air Advisory Board. She's done lots to ensure that there's environmental standards in place for California. Another is Ava DuVernay, and thinking about her recent works on many underserved populations and bringing their stories to light. The other is Wendy Gruhl, who is very involved here locally in politics too. She's involved in the Women's and Girls Initiative. She's been controller of many things in LA as a whole.
Those are wonderful. Anybody have thoughts to share on those?
I like the fact that two of the women who are nominated, Zoe Nicholson and also Karen Bass, are both women that are local to us. And it would be wonderful if at least one of the banners could be from someone who is local to us. And, you know, of course, Zoe Nicholson continues to do so much and has done so much for so many years to promote women and the Equal Rights Amendment and all issues pertaining to empower us. So she's magnificent. And so is Karen Bass, who is a tireless advocate of promoting women's issues. So I really strongly support those two women who have been nominated.
I was the one who nominated both of them, Congressmember Karen Bass and Zoe Nicholson. And the reason why I brought those names forth this year is because, well, first off, Zoe has been a big fighter for the Equal Rights Amendment. Plus, she's an expert on the centennial of the women's vote. So to honor her in 2020, I think would be extra special and very timely. And with Karen Bass, she recently became chair of the Black Caucus, and you know, so it's a special time for her too, and a great time to honor her.
I support you in that very much for both women.
Any comments down here? Just want to make sure we're getting both sides. I hate that we're in a line like this. I'm not used to like having to do this. Any comments down here? I will jump in. I love the idea also of honoring Zoe because she's local to us. I feel like she's a bit of a legend in so many ways. And so I also would, I think particularly her. And then the other thing that jumped out to me is, I know we did this with the Women's March, where that kind of collaborative banner where it's honoring like just the 100-year centennial. I personally feel like it could be amiss if we just don't, because we're not going to get that again for another, a while. So personally, those were the two that resonated with me. I don't know if we want to have any other discussion about it, or do we feel like there's other names that want to be brought to the table, or do we want to kind of whittle this down now? How are you guys feeling?
I'm fine to whittle it down and just keep going.
All right, let's whittle it down. Okay, so, I mean, do we want to just do, kind of go name by name and then just do a show of hands? I don't remember
have a
how we've done
question.
this.
So on these banners, since do we do a description of them on the banner itself? Because with some of these names, unless people are heavily involved in activism, they might not know. Like myself, formerly would not have known these names. So I love the ideas that were suggested. I just would hope that there's some description, right?
There isn't. But usually, well, it comes with raising awareness around the people that we do put on the banners, and that awareness is raised through our Women's History Month events. But part of the charm is that you have people who are very local, fairly local, like Ivy Bottini, up on a banner next to Sheila Kuehl, next to Maxine Waters. I think that's part of the charm of it. And their names are on there, and the onus is kind of on the observer to find out or figure out who they are.
I agree.
There is just a brief description for some of them. So it might just say author, activist, or it might say attorney or something like that, but it's not, it wouldn't give you like a full title or something. It's a limited, and that's part of the design of the banner. So it wouldn't tell you exactly, but it might be enough to help you do the Google search to learn more.
And also what is wonderful with these two women is not only that they are activists, but that the longevity. When we look at Zoe Nicholson, I think there's nearly she started very young, nearly half a century there.
Sorry, Mel, you proposed, the last thing that you proposed, who would it be honoring or what would it be honoring?
I liked the idea that that Karen brought up around something regarding just a centennial regarding. Try that again, Luby. A banner kind of honoring the centennial.
Yeah, I don't know if they have to be living, but
No.
I would kind of like to honor the suffragettes, right? I think that would be a good group to kind of, or way to bring that in.
Agreed.
Suffragettes.
We did honor Inez Milholland a couple years back. And I believe Alice Paul is on our list. So we already have some banners on specific suffragists.
That is correct. So the original banners were based on U.S. postal stamps, and some of the suffragist leaders were part of that, as well as a couple others over the year. Another thing that you might think of that ties into the LA counties, as you saw the Women and Girls Initiative and the efforts and some of the focus that they're putting out there in the scope of Look at the 100 was also looking at some people that are not the ones that you always think about because they're not highlighted, they're not given the same level of recognition, and some of the communities of color that were involved in suffrage movement, most, particularly African American women, and there are quite a few well-known suffragist leaders of African American descent who haven't been included in previous recognition. So that could be one way if you wanted to go specific.
Yeah.
Because some of the other women are the ones you think of, and some of them are already represented. So that's just a little thought.
I mean, we could even do I like the idea of kind of honoring those names that we might not know. And so if it was one banner, if we could honor 3 on one banner or a couple on one banner, I don't know if that's feasible or if we're getting crazy there.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Please.
Also, I feel that it is in a way more relatable, though the organizations and the groups are very commendable, but there is a wonderful emotional connection when we actually select individuals. It makes a stronger connection. That's my opinion. We can always honor groups in other ways, but honoring people personally makes the connection, especially for everyone walking around the city. To see someone that they know being honored makes them feel very proud and moved.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's an excellent point. Should we kind of go back to the list and just start at the list and do kind of a quick hand raise? I know also I want to be cognizant. I feel like we're running a little long already. Is this something that we want to think about maybe and come back to at our December meeting? Or are we going to do it, kind of hash it out now?
I personally like some more time
Okay.
and to discuss it at the December meeting.
Is there a time, I'm sorry. Is there a time issue as far as how long the artist needs to do this?
Well, yes, there are timelines. However, we're on timeline. Typically, this decision isn't made till December
Okay.
or even sometimes January, but we've been pushing it up sooner. So, and this is the first time you're really discussing it, so sometimes it takes more than one meeting, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
And our next meeting's only in a couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Wait until next month?
Yeah, that sounds great. Everybody good with that? Okay.
I favor that.
Yes.
Awesome.
Same.
Sounds like we are choosing to take more time, which always is wonderful. And then I think the last option here is to provide both discuss the subcommittee, which I forgot who was on it, but we have a lovely handout that is going to tell me momentarily. This one, that one, yellow one, this one, as well as if there's any other thoughts or that the board wanted to share as far as direction to that subcommittee regarding Women's History Month.
Wait, will you say that again?
Just as we, now we're to a point where the subcommittee, needs to definitely prioritize meeting, and also there's room if anyone else wants to, participate in that subcommittee. So is there any additional direction that the board would like to give as the subcommittee goes into meeting about it? No? Is anybody interested in joining the subcommittee? I was kind of eyeing you.
I will.
Okay, so it sounds like, can we add Karen to?
And I will.
Awesome. 2. Yes. All right, Karen and Angela, can we get them added to that? And then we should just make a point to get together hopefully before our December meeting and have a quick discussion. Sound good? Okay, cool. I think then that kind of moves us along into the centennial anniversary of the 19th Amendment. The board will discuss plans and ideas about ways to commemorate the centennial anniversary of the 19th Amendment that granted the women the right to vote. And obviously, we might want to piggyback on some of the wonderful ideas brought forth by the Women and Girls Initiative.
Yes, absolutely. That was a very timely presentation to sort of help inform how the board moves forward with planning for next year's Women's Equality Day, but also in parcel, any programming that you want to recommend or regarding the 100th anniversary celebration for the city. Also, in your packet, we shared some information from the last city council meeting, actually an effort from the mayor and Mayor Pro Tempore's office to actually really start the 19th Amendment commemoration on certain levels, similar to what you were hearing from the county of what cities can do. They've already wanted to just, let's get going, because they want to start in January at every council meeting having some type of mention of the 19th Amendment commemoration, and so with some factoids or information. So throughout the whole year of 2020 doing that. So that's a commitment that the city council has made, and also given direction to staff regarding some of the annual programming. How can the theme of the centennial be a part of that? And it was all done with certainly with the understanding of what the board does and will be doing regarding Women's Equality Day, and the centennial that you are going to be working on, sort of some kind of large endeavor regarding commemorating the 100th anniversary in a meaningful way. This was in addition to what you all are already working on, that this is broadening and sort of the whole city initiative kind of happening and rolling out already. So that's a little summary of what the item is. And so again, it's another thing to have in the background as you work towards your committee work and making further recommendations on how the city commemorates the 100th anniversary.
Okay, perfect.
I loved the idea of doing a movie night that she suggested from the Women and Girls Initiative. I thought that was on par with a lot of other activities and programming we've done in the past, but it was a cool way to kind of tie in the theme specifically, and I think that would be really fun.
I know Karen might have some thoughts on that.
I have a movie that we can consider. So Wild West Women, who did the Inez Milholland movie, they have a short movie called California Women Win the Vote. And it's only 40 minutes long. which lends itself to, say, add a speaker or a panel discussion or something, so we can build more of a program around it. And so I did get the DVD. I watched it. I think it would be great. The reason I love it so much is it really brings the Centennial home to California and shows that the state was at the forefront of the movement, that we were almost 10 years ahead of the rest of the country. There are other states that were even before us, but California, I think, kick-started it into more of a national effort. So, yeah, that's what I'm recommending. I'm passing the DVD on to Mel, and then she can share it with whomever else wants to watch it.
Is anybody in?
Oh, wait, sorry.
No, I
No,
was
I just-
asking the question. Oh, go ahead.
What were you going to ask?
I was going to ask if anybody wants it after me, and I can just make sure to pass it along.
Oh, sorry. No, I also had a movie
going.
suggestion. I met the filmmakers of a movie called And She Could Be Next. It's an independent documentary series that explores a movement of women of color as candidates and organizers who are working to fulfill the American promise of democracy for all. So it goes on to talk about film through the 2018 election cycle and onto the 2019. We follow a dynamic slate of history-making candidates such as, and then a bunch. And so they can get us the documentary and also do a panel as well. And they are more than happy to meet and discuss further.
Great.
Awesome. Both of those sound really great.
It might be cool too, and I don't know if this applies to the movie thing, it might be a little aggressive, but just a thought, like how the city council meetings are going to be opened every single month with something commemorating it. It might be cool throughout the year to do something regularly every month, like whether it be the movie night or this, like, you know, Centennial Book Club, whatever it might be, but have regular programming throughout the entire year so that it's not just a one-off sort of event or a couple of movies kind of thing.
Yeah, it would be really, to that point, I think it could be really cool to tie that into maybe whatever is posed at the council event, I think maybe is what you, or that's just an idea of like how to build on that. Like if something is mentioned, is there a way that we can then, you know, have a movie or a book or something to support that could be really cool.
Yeah, it's just such a big year that like it would be nice to have something regular.
Like that. Nicole?
Could we also have opportunities and for voter registration at that? And so combine these services, right? Sorry, I'm forgetting the timing. What is this again? When would we be doing this?
This is all, it's kind of, the city council part is kicking off in January. And so the idea would be, from council's perspective, it sounds like they'll be honoring it all year long.
Okay.
And so if we were to tap into that a little bit, we could have that same opportunity.
Yeah. So that there's census opportunities, anything that we can get like that combines the action around it.
That's great.
Yeah, and it might just be that like we have a standing piece of programming or event each month that's dedicated to this theme, and then it can be, you know, registration, it could be a movie, it could be a book club thing, whatever.
Yeah, to also piggyback off of what,
There you go.
sorry, I keep on missing the mic. To also piggyback on what Nicole had said, I think it's very important after the presentation that we had around the initiative of women and girls that we really focus on trying to register as many women as possible, because I think that you know, we do have a very, very big, very important election that's coming up within 2020. So the more that we can do, we have, as she said, what was it, 400,000 women who could, you know, who we could register to vote. I mean, well, not just us, but so really some sort of like initiative to go and push that forward.
I like that. And I'm excited to see that heat map. I think that'll be really interesting to see. That's great. Any other kind of comments?
Just one. I would like to see if any of the other advisory boards or commissions would like to partner with us on some events, because I don't think this should be exclusively council and us celebrating the centennial.
Totally agree. That's an excellent point, Karen. Thank you. Okay, and so I think that's all. Is there anything, Nadia, did you have anything you wanted to add? No. Anybody else? I think it sounds like, you know, the subcommittee on that to review is Mel, Jenna, Angela, and Nicole. personally, Karen, I know that this is something that you're so passionate about. If you would prefer to take my place on the subcommittee, I would be happy to just, this is your jam. So,
My God, you're just writing my name
I
in
know,
there,
I mean,
aren't you?
I'm assuming, but if you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's something you can think about. And I think the only kind of action item here would be, it sounds like we have a lot of good feedback from the board and opinions on this, is if the subcommittee meeting, or the subcommittee could meet before our next December meeting and kind of have a little bit more of an in-depth discussion about that so that we can get an update on that from that meeting and go from there. So you can let me know, or you can tell me no.
We'll talk.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
Then
cool.
just some, because that subcommittee will be meeting before your December meeting when you're going to talk about work plan. I would also just encourage you in terms of capacity, looking at your existing programming, like looking at Women in Books, looking at the Women in Film series as opportunities for those things to plug into existing programming. And that will kind of help inform your work plan conversation.
Awesome, thank you. Excellent point. Okay, I think then in the interest of time, if everybody's good with moving forward, going on to item 6D, which is the creation of a Women's Safety Subcommittee. The board will consider a recommendation from its members of the Joint Women's Safety Subcommittee comprised of representatives from the Women's Advisory Board and Public Safety Commission to form a board subcommittee. I believe that last time this was something that was discussed, and kind of the goal here is to perhaps take a formal action on this item and actually formalize the creation of a subcommittee. So would anyone like to make a motion or discuss this?
I'll motion. Or do we need to discuss?
Go ahead.
I think we discussed at the last meeting pretty thoroughly, but
So you'd like to make a motion to create a formal women's...
correct. Yes, I would like to make a motion to formally create the subcommittee for women's safety.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I think we have a subcommittee. Cool, next.
Do we need to form the subcommittee, or
Oh,
should we
yeah.
just
There's
transfer?
there's names on the sheet already for
Oh, are there,
top one.
Tina, Nadia, and Amanda Blythe. It looks like there is room for one more spot if anybody's interested. Okay.
I'll do it.
Oh, Karen, you're in there? All right. All right, Karen's on that one. So I think then we're good to move on. Going into item 6D, which is the Women's Advisory Board Work Plan Implementation, ongoing review and monitoring regarding the implementation of the board's current work plan. I feel like this, unless we have specific staff updates here, since I know that our next meeting is going to be really heavy in this, I feel like we could possibly table this until December. Everybody good with that?
Absolutely.
All right, ladies. Moving on to item 7, which is speak Libby, legislation and advocacy. The board will review and discuss updates regarding state and federal legislation affecting women. The board's priority issues include equal rights, violence against women, women's safety, sexual harassment, and women's health, starting with state legislation and policy.
So just really quickly, because this is really something that's going to roll into the retreat conversation, but in terms of discussion of process and procedure, but you have a handout that has an outline of a basic process regarding legislative recommendations, and then the second part on the other side is a little chart that outlines the state's legislative process and timeline. And those are the things that we are striving to adhere to. So this is the time right now that state legislative offices are in the process of developing their proposals for new bills that will be introduced next year. And it's a time and when we get in, and so we have an outline for that legislative process. It's approximately, I'm sorry, you're looking at me, you don't have the handout.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, wait, you know what? I'm sorry. They were all right in front of me.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's just a one-sheet, double-sided.
Okay, now we got it.
Yeah. So we don't need to go over it tonight, but you have it now to look over because it will be part of the conversation with the retreat discussion when you talk about how you do what you do, and also, again, looking at the year ahead. This process kicks off again in terms of what's happening with the state and how the board interacts with that in terms of what you do and looking at bills, the process, and making recommendations. So just a little advance document.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody have any other comments there? Okay, moving on to federal legislation and policy. The board will discuss federal legislation and receive updates regarding the status of federal legislation of interest and policy that the board is tracking. I think most of us kind of have selected a couple of these to follow. Do we just want to start at the top, and if anybody has any updates, we can speak on them?
Number one is, I'm sorry, number one is mine. I don't have any updates about Title X.
I can give a
ton
brief
on right
update on that.
Oh, wonderful, thank you.
Well, it's easy, nothing's happening, it's kind of stalled.
Yeah.
But it's bad, and just a refresher, it allows for reverse Title IX gender discrimination claims, where male students can argue their university's process is biased against men. And it's getting in the way of the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, so, but it's stalled.
Yikes, okay. Item 2?
I believe that one's mine, but there hasn't been any movement on it since April 10th.
All right.
It's one of those bills that are just sitting in a Senate subcommittee under Mitch McConnell's thumb.
Cool. Good talk.
And item 3, the Empower Act.
Oh, that is me. So we do have a new co-sponsor, Representative Joe Negus. The bill now has 68 co-sponsors, 64 Democrats, and 4 Republicans.
Great. Okay. Item 4.
I also looked into that one. No action since May 20th.
Great. Item 5.
No action since. Oh.
I could do that one. So it has been introduced to the Senate, where it's been languishing in the Senate Judiciary Committee since May of 2019.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No movement there then. And Women's Health Protection Act.
Oh, did I skip one? Oh, yeah.
That's 6.
Oh, that's the one I just said.
Okay.
Sorry.
The Paycheck Fairness Act hasn't seen any movement since April 3rd.
Okay, perfect. And then Title 10.
Title 10, the Trump administration, this just is background, but on July 15th, the administration decided to prohibit all Title 10 clinics from providing abortion referrals and abortion services. 8 lawsuits have been filed against the regulations. Some states like Oregon and Washington have withdrawn from Title X, and so has Planned Parenthood. California has the largest Title X program in the country, I should say Title 10, and California has responded to the new restrictions by filing a lawsuit to challenge the rule. Our state has 391 Title X clinics as of June 2019, and 98 of which are Planned Parenthood clinics that are withdrawing. There's another 58 clinics in California that have withdrawn too, and the new restrictions have resulted in nearly a 40% reduction in patients served by the state's programs, according, to the state.
Disgusting. Wow. Thank you for refreshing us on that. Moving on to the proposed rule to amend Section 1157 of the Healthcare Rights Act law. Any updates there? I think that one might be mine, and unfortunately, I do not have an update there. Item 9, which is the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. There are no updates there, but that is one that I'm definitely following closely as well. Okay, then moving on to legislative and advocacy updates on WAB prioritized issues. Shall we start with the ERA?
We are very delighted on the progress that is happening with the ERA, for all of you, the Equal Rights Amendment that we need to ratify. We needed 38 states to pass it in order to go forward and make it move on. In the last couple of years, we added 2 more states, we are very proud to say, and 1 more state remains so that we can go forward and pass the ERA. We are very delighted that our 2 local groups have been very proactive. And the latest news, the state that we are really keeping our eye on is Virginia. And what has happened in Virginia? Well, Virginia, that was on the 11th of November, there was an election, and Virginia elected a huge slate of very progressive, supportive candidates that are highly supportive of the Equal Rights Amendment. And the person who was putting the big block on this issue is no more there. So we are very proud because this election, we had a stake in it, because we helped make it happen here in California. A whole huge group of us made phone calls and phone banking to elect the people that would support the ERA. And guess what? They are in power. Now it's up to us to keep in touch with Virginia. They send us a newsletter regularly. I hope you get it. I'll make sure you get it. And we can move forward. Karen, would you like to add anything to this?
Sure. Over the weekend, I attended a meeting of the Women's Caucus of a certain political party that shall go unnamed. And it was announced there that the Virginia State Legislature plans to bring this, to move very quickly and to bring this to the floor of their houses in January. So the timing of this going to Congress may be as early as February, March. So it's going fast.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you for sharing those updates. That's exciting. Moving on to human trafficking, and also just wanting to call out, I know that we're running a little long, so I want to try to continue to move us forward as quickly as possible.
No updates on human
No
trafficking.
updates? Okay, perfect. And then women's health, we have a subcommittee that we need to meet and report back on. Moving right along to board and commission liaison reports. Does anybody want to speak to item 1, which was the convening of women's missions? The women's regional. Oh, it looks like we have an entire report from that. And so I'm wondering if in the interest of time, we might be able to read this privately and then kind of regroup on this at our meeting in December. Mm-hmm. And same with the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls Initiative, which I believe we had a wonderful presentation on, so maybe we don't need to cover right now.
I could say one thing. The commission is now accepting nominations for the 2020 Women of the Year Awards. The deadline is December 20th at 5 p.m.
Great. Perfect. Association of Women's Commissions, no update there. And then the census.
Oh, yeah, I'm the rep. Census Day is April 1st, 2020, and keeping this brief, our next meeting is scheduled for December 3rd at 6:30 p.m. in Plummer Park. It is a public meeting. If you're interested, show up and participate.
Awesome.
Can you make a note of that?
And then moving monthly reports to City Council, who's up?
Board Member Sutton.
All right, Nadia. And then moving on to 10, which is subcommittee and liaison reports.
I wasn't able to make it to Women in Film last month because we had our event, but I'm going to follow up to see if they're doing it next week.
Great. Sounds wonderful. Women in Books?
Oh, the next book is You Think It, I'll Say It by Curtis Sittenfeld.
Okay. Okay. And do you have a date on that? I can never remember.
It's the first Tuesday of the month.
Right there. Perfect. And then human trafficking awareness?
Yeah, I'm not aware. Oh my goodness, I'm not aware of any sort of movement in terms of a screening. Larissa, have you heard anything on your end? Okay. Yeah, I can follow up prior to the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
So I have been in talks a lot with an organization that goes and helps get women out of trafficking situations. So they are open and willing to do our event or participate somehow in our event in January, whether it's on a panel or something, but we can talk about that more later.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Great, thank you for that update. Moving on to the advocacy training project.
I've been going, it's been great. 2 sessions in.
Oh yeah, it's been really fun and informative.
You're loving
Informative.
it.
He was there.
I heard that it was
John.
well attended, awesome, wonderful. And then Joint Safety Subcommittee, I mean, we've addressed this previously, so I think we're good to move on. And then the Roe v. Wade commemoration.
The most important takeaway is save the date, January 30th in the evening. The programming is coming together really well, and it's going to be a great evening.
Okay, perfect. And we have a couple board members that are involved with this. Like 3, right? Okay, perfect, awesome. Great, I'm excited for that. Keep us posted. And then moving on to, we've moved fast, public comment. We have Mr. John Erickson here. Dr. John Erickson, excuse me. And sorry, thank you for hanging out while we ran late.
It's a Women's Advisory Board meeting. I never got out of here past 10 when I worked all with you. So, I'm happy to stay for another 45 minutes. Jenny, however, may not be. I wanted to say hello. There's no place I'd rather be with you all than tonight. I apologize I wasn't able to be here under the item for the vagina monologues, but thank you for your support of that item. I had another board meeting, and then I ran down to this board meeting. And, I just want to say, speaking in my President of Hollywood Now hat for Corey while she's doing the minutes, so I'm not in any other way, shape, or form representing myself on any other board or commission I may serve on. It's the type of work that we're able to do with the city and the support that we're able to get not only from all the boards and the commissions is truly revolutionary. I, as some of you know, serve as a Pacific District rep for the National Organization for Women and their national board, and when I report out the type of work that local chapters, which it really is only Hollywood Now, are doing, they are amazed. Other cities wish that they had the types of connections that we do. They wish that they had the types of boards or commission members that are so actively engaged with us. Happy birthday, Amanda.
Thank you, John.
And the ways in which that we are able to create and solicit change in so many ways here because of that. And they are all very jealous of West Hollywood. They are really excited for the ways in which we continue to push the needle here, and it's all because of you all. And don't tell Annie who's in the back, but this is my favorite board. And so, because I got my start here, but it really does mean a lot to me as both a resident, a former employee of the city, as well as someone with a vested interest in making sure that women and girls issues are put at the forefront when they oftentimes are not, and more men need to say that's bullshit and they need to do something about it. So thank you for the work that you all do, and I'm proud to know each and every one of you. And thank you for sitting through the training yesterday.
It was awesome.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Moving on to items from the board. Which way do we want to start? This way.
Okay, well, so I was at the the advocacy training program, and then Nicole and I went to the all-in state and LA commissions on Friday, and it was so awesome, but we'll talk about that next month. And I started a new acting class.
Very cool.
Vagina monologues. I'm on the subcommittee.
Nothing from me. Well, thank you for the cupcake, whomever. Thank you.
I love you all and happy birthday, Amanda.
Thanks, Jenner.
Or, yeah, sure. We'll go back this way.
Great. Angela and I also went on the housing tour on Saturday too. So that was really, really informative to see where our supportive housing is in the West Hollywood. So that was really great. And happy birthday, Amanda.
Ms. Nadia.
Well, I am very thrilled to thank you all for your support. As you know, I'm the co-organizer with CTX1 of an event that is a pre-Thanksgiving celebration for about 150 LGBT homeless youth who are the biggest inspiration in my life. And we do a fabulous event on Sunday where we celebrate them with a lot of different organizations in attendance to support them, and where they are there to support each other, because for many of them, this is their Thanksgiving, and I'm so honored for the support from you all to help us make it happen. And keep your breath as we are going to chaperone 150 young ones from 16 to 23.
Ooh. Nadia. Okay, get ready, because I'm claiming my time. Women, we are weeks away from a big year. 2020 is going to be a big year. It's the centennial anniversary of the women's vote, and I'm really hopeful that in 2020, this will be the year that we get the Equal Rights Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. I'm hopeful because as dire as it seems at times, as horrible as the policies that our current administration tries to inflict upon women and their rights, I see a lot that is promising and progressive and empowering to women. I see that every woman on this board is fighting in her own way to advance the rights and improve the treatment of women, and I love you all. I see women on other boards and commissions who are making our city better for women. Women like Annie and Noemi Torres and Alexis Sanchez and Barbara Meltzer, Mikey Friedman, Seppi Shine, and Ruth Williams. I see the men too who are on boards and commissions and who have our backs. When they consider policies and programs, they remember to make room for the women. Men like Sam Borelli, James Wen, Robert Gamboa, and John Erickson. And I see our city council taking action to raise awareness about issues impacting women and taking action to make women's lives better, their workplaces more equitable, and their neighborhoods less dangerous. I see our county and state legislators fighting for bills to protect and expand reproductive health care, provide better and fairer opportunities in the workplace, and more affordable housing and health care for women. West Hollywood in California is getting better for women, but there's much more work to do. And if we're going to be the beacon of light for the rest of the country, and I do believe we are, then there's no time to waste. 2020 is going to be a year for the ages. Big things are going to happen in this country, state, and county for women, but we must join together and demand it. So women of West Hollywood, come out and play. Join us at our programs and special events. Come to a city council meeting and find out what our leaders are doing for you and your neighbors. Get civically engaged. It's not difficult, and it can be fun. There's a bunch of us who would enjoy having you join us, and we will answer any questions you might have. 2020 is going to be big, and I want you to be part of it, and you don't want to miss this.
I have no words right now. Literally, mic drop. Thank you, Karen, and happy birthday, Amanda. I had stuff I was going to say, but that was unbelievable. So thank you for the thought that you just put into that. I want to acknowledge that. That was really unbelievable. Like, I could not have thought of a better way to end this meeting. Thanks, Karen, and happy big birthday, Amanda. All right, we are, sorry, items from staff. Just kidding. One more thing. On that note, what else is there?
Great, so now we have to follow that.
I know.
So just to kind of save the date, we've shared with you by email, but wanted to make note, as you referenced the January 30th Roe v. Wade event, you'll have a lot of busy Thursdays, hopefully, in January. We do need to reschedule the January meeting, and I heard back from most of you that January 16th will work for your schedules. To reschedule the board meeting, and then that Thursday in between, January 23rd, will be the annual LASA point-in-time homeless count. That's the night that West Hollywood will be participating. So you're all more than welcome to serve as volunteers. The volunteer sign-up will be available from LASA hopefully in the next few weeks. We'll share that with you as well, but appreciate your flexibility in changing the schedule for January. And that's all from.
Anything else? Okay, great. We are adjourning this meeting at 9:16, and thank you. Happy birthday.